Hiya, and welcome to Mandatory Redistribution Party. This episode is about how capitalism tries to be your mate, but it's not. We've seen what capitalism's saying in the DMs, and it turns out not only is capitalism not your friend, but it's an economic system in which trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit enforced by state violence. What a nasty piece of work. Me and Sean talk about mascots and how we might persuade rich people to buy socialism. A bit like Dragon's Den, but instead of reggae sauce, the life of everyone you know being immeasurably improved. Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters, whose generous support helped push us through the gruelling all-nighters we've done to replace the content lost in last week's Lib Dem cyber attack. You are technically our bosses, and we daren't enrage you. If you would also like to be our boss, please find the Patreon link in the notes. As a leftist podcast, we are committed to having as many bosses as possible. Right, you ready for the ep? Ready? Steady. I've been having second thoughts about the mascot. We spent all the Patreon money trying to get people on Fiverr to design a mascot because it was the way to. It was what the podcast needed and I feel like we've made some errors.
I actually feel pretty good about the whole mascot project beginning to its eventual end.
But we don't. We got too many. We just said, okay, here we are. We're a radical leftist podcast run by two comedians from the north, and
then we went for the lowest possible fee people on Fiverr.
We should make some decisions, right? We need to make some decisions, and I think people want to hear, they want to be in on the process of us going through this. Mm-hmm. So first decision, animal or human mascot?
And you asking them to respond now?
No, you.
Oh, okay, I make the decision.
Business meeting.
Animal or human? There's something about having a human being that's a mascot that seems something very strange about that.
Why? Monopoly Man. The Pringle's head. Is that human? Or is that is that a Pringle?
That's not a Pringle.
It's the Pringle. What is that? What's that?
It's a head.
What the fuck is it?
It's a head. It's a head.
I'm getting scared of it. What is that?
It's not a Pringle.
It looks like an egg. It looks like a sideways egg.
No, it's a Murray Mint. It's a Murray Mint.
What? Is it?
Never
the
had a
Pringles
Pringle and
logo.
A mint? Jack, are you telling me you've never had a Pringle and mint?
I thought the green tube was mint flavour, but it's really not. He's the shape of a Pringle.
He's not the shape of a Pringle.
He is.
He's the shape of like a Baby Bell. A Pringle is this.
Fuck. He's like.
A Pringle is like this.
Well, he's not 3D. He's not 3D a Pringle, but he's a.
But if you look at a Pringle,
like oval. If you look at a Pringle from above, it's like oval.
You mean directly above bird's eye view?
You're bird.
You're looking at like GTA 1.
A bird looking down at a Pringles tube in the hand of the character from GTA 1.
All right, it's super zooming in.
Right.
He was eating the Pringles the whole time. Probably why he's so violent.
Do you know Pringles were entirely created in a lab and like tested on rats? They're one of the first like completely man-made foods.
Right. Did the rats like them?
Oh yeah. Once they popped, they told the scientists, "Can you make a crisp that's like fucking crack?" And they did.
I'm not that keen. I don't think they're that great.
I haven't had a Pringle in a while, so maybe don't know. I think I've always enjoyed a Pringle. There's things. It's not a top tier. I'm not ranking them, but
what is your top tier?
Crisps.
Yeah.
I like a frazzle, but that's a whole other conversation.
Wow.
Right? The mascot. We're getting the mascot. So you're saying there's something wrong about a human mascot?
There's something uncanny about just having some person that doesn't exist, just a drawing of someone we've made up being our mascot.
It could be someone real. Could pick a real person.
There's something about an animal mascot that makes me worry about.
What's your issue with animal?
I just feel like an animal's going to be sexualized quicker than a human.
Do you know, I've never looked, but I was about to say there's no Tony the Tiger porn. There's no Coco
What are you talking about? That's the wrongest thing you've ever said.
Yeah, but but what about Coco?
Tony the Tiger's got such sexual energy. He's going to be one of the most sexualized serial mascots.
Now you point it out, I feel like the actual...
He's got like a neckerchief.
Before anything else has been done, he's already like a sexy furry type.
I mean, he's associated with like white liquid.
Like, or it's already the porn,
yeah.
Like white
so
liquid
pornographic to begin with.
Yeah, Tony's a really horny...
Not horny. You're supposed to be horny for him.
Yeah, no, like I'm
Tony
saying, I'm using horny
you.
and like he's got horny energy.
Yeah.
He's not horny.
Oh, yeah.
You could make him horny and then I'd plead like, I've made this tiger fucking horny. Game on. But I don't know, the Cocoa Pops monkey?
Less so. Cocoa Pops monkey, I think,
Or
is
Nesquik, the
underage.
Nesquik? Is the Cocoa Pops monkey under? I'm sorry for even bringing that up. It's Cocoa Pops. I don't know.
I
how
think
old
the
monkey
Cocoa
is.
Pops monkey is underage.
Child.
Which
Well,
makes
okay,
me feel
yeah.
bad for saying it, but
Well,
I'm
no,
actually trying to help.
exactly. Yeah, you're trying
I
to
feel
help.
like I've said something wrong, but I'm
you
actually trying to
clarified.
stop something bad happening.
I was just thinking of animal mascots. Well, that's good. So then we just make it an animal child. And then it can't, and then no one's going to sexualize it because that makes them a fucking pedo.
Yeah, but that means that if they were to, it's much worse.
We put the logo on the
Isn't
Twitter
it
account.
safer
We go,
for
"Here's
us
the
to
mascot,
make a really old...
an old man?"
Well, I worry, right, if we have an
Zizek.
underage...
go back to human.
If we have an underage mascot and someone does do the unthinkable, it means we've got a much worse mess on our hands than if someone sexualizes a mascot that is above age. Probably we should make them above age and indeed sexualized and consenting.
Right, okay.
Just so when they do inevitably get sexualized,
Right.
it's completely above board.
But why is everyone sexualizing mascots? I accept Tony the Tiger, but I return to my original premise of no one's like fucking jacking it to the Pringles head.
I think the least sexual cereal mascot is Professor Weeto.
Nah, he's horny.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to act on it.
Yeah.
I think he lives in a very remote area.
Yeah.
I think he lives in a Jonathan Creek style isolated windmill.
Yeah, because it's wheat.
That's nice.
Yeah. So an old man. An old man that we know? Zizek.
No, I don't know Zizek.
Yeah, he's got his own problems.
Who's like the least problematic old man? Or an old woman, actually. I don't think it's...
Yeah, just an old person. Are we going people then?
Yeah, I think it should be a very old person.
But you can't have like an old snake. An old wise snake. Well, like, there's like, lefty animals, bees.
Okay, yeah.
Wasps.
I think for whatever reason, the problem that I was trying to solve by making him human rather than being animal is somehow... Oh, a pangolin's good.
Yeah. That little... It's like a big armoured rat and its armour's made of toenails. But old. Oh, a pangolin with... The pangolin's adjusting his glasses to like, what does this say? Like he's like looking close at something. What does it say?
Mr. Magoo?
Yeah. But as a pangolin.
Because I also associate that little glasses thing with like...
To be clear...
and Ernie, end of the pier, done a cheeky joke in the 70s. Whoop, shouldn't have said that. Whoop, I just seen me Mrs. Bloomers.
Well, yeah, that clarifies the edge of our brand. We look more edgy. People say we're not edgy enough.
So we want to go for
some edge on it,
Mr.
like
Magoo meets the two Ronnies in a pangolin.
In a pangolin, yeah. And then armour. Can't get in.
And what's the benefit of the armour?
We're strong.
We're not strong, we just can't be hurt.
Yeah.
They're
different.
We got low attack, high defence. Yeah.
Unless you get underneath. What's underneath a pangolin?
Skins. Soft, naked mole rat
Right,
style
well, that
skin.
can't be in the mascot. We'll have to tell the people on Fiverr to rotate him. Or keep him down.
This is my issue with a lot of the defended and the spiny creatures.
Yeah.
So they've got an obvious weak spot that everyone knows about. So if I was a hedgehog or a porcupine or a turtle, I'd have the armor bit on the bottom as well. Like if I was a hedgehog, I'd be
around,
not on my face.
Yeah, but you're not going to be comfy, are you?
Why?
They're
not going to stab
and
in.
also, a hedgehog could like curl. Cause most of them can like curl in a ball. I think a
Turtle
pangolin
can't curl in a ball.
Turtle can't curl in a ball, but he's got hard. He's hard under as well.
Not as hard.
Not as hard, but he's still fucking hard, isn't he?
Yeah, quite hard.
Yeah. And like, do you know the only natural predator of a hedgehog is a badger? Like, I know a human could kill and eat a hedgehog, but like only a badger can get. It knows to pull them open.
Right.
Nothing else knows.
Nothing else learnt that.
Nothing else knows to do. Well, because badger's got its like hooky claws, hasn't it? Yeah.
That must be really scary.
Yeah. If you're a hedgehog, like a badger's 7 times your size as well. Yeah, that's fun.
I saw a badger go up quite a steep set of stairs once.
What?
And I'm like, these guys are unstoppable.
They're really fast. They've got a super low central drive. I'm terrified of badgers, mate.
You've got nothing to worry
I
about.
got chased by badgers now, and I also, whenever I'm in a situation where there might be a badger, I'm mitigating. I'm like,
oh wow,
I'm like fucking Jason Bourne checking the exits or whatever.
Yeah,
right. Paper round more than one occasion. Chased by a badger early in the night.
Did you have a bike?
Still night. No, I didn't have a bike.
You did paper round on foot?
Yeah.
Must have taken ages.
Well, it was quick. I tested it because I was on and off the bike, on and off the bike, on and off the bike.
There
was a
Aren't
bit,
you supposed to throw them from the bike?
No, you have to go and post it into the door. People would complain because it rained.
But Paperboy,
Not paperboy like you're thinking like the Amstrad game.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no.
Avoid the person skipping. Avoid the ghost.
No. In America, they put the put the newspaper in a plastic wrapper so that it's rain resistant. No, not in UK. You have to push it through a post box, and almost everyone's post box is like on the floor, so the dog immediately gets it and it gets shredded as it goes through. Anyway, it's doing that. Chased multiple occasions by, I was going to say badgers. It might well have been the same badger because it was the same paper route. So,
there was never a time when multiple badgers were getting you. It's the same badger, and you're like, it's another badger.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, we could. I mean, you know.
So maybe an armoured badger, but
That's
really
cool.
old.
I mean, I'm kind of scared of it, but I like that I'm scared of a mask. Yeah, old. So he's been in the Badger Wars. He's wizened.
There's something a bit parochial wildlife trust about a badger that seems very uncool.
Yeah, how does that get across? Like radical left comedy podcast. How does a badger get that across?
A badger reminds me of like,
what do we call him?
National Trust and going around like an abbey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so that's really uncool.
He's on a leaflet. That's a good logo, but he's a logo for the children's version of a leaflet in York Minster.
A pamphlet to get children excited about collecting acorns.
Yeah, you have to follow the badger's trail and find his clues. Yeah, we can't. I mean,
I don't think a badger's going to do it.
Weirdly,
it's a shame because you're scared of it.
Still think of pangolin.
I'm scared of spiders. I've got a real bad spider.
Spider, dreadful logo. That again is just going to terrify everyone.
Yeah, too scary. But it needs more edge than a badger. I guess it could be a pangolin.
Pangolin's quite a sexless. I don't think we will have to worry about that issue.
Yeah, hard to get horny for a pangolin.
Should respect a pangolin.
Oh, a blobfish.
Oh, yeah, I like a blobfish.
Also, I've got a fact about the blobfish.
Yeah.
So you know the pictures you've seen of the blobfish?
Yeah.
Blobfishes actually live quite deep in the ocean, where there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So they don't look like that in the natural environment.
No.
In the natural environment, they look all right.
Yeah.
But you take them out of the natural environment, and they go all blobby and horrible.
Which is the logo. Nice blobfish or blob, external to environment. Blob.
Are you aware of the Greek or Roman god? Janus. It's like the two-headed god. Right. So they're depicted as like two heads facing in different directions.
Yeah.
They represent like doorways and changes between different times.
Yeah.
And so we could be the two blobfish, but like one blobbed low pressure and one like really handsome.
People are going to assume one of us is the handsome blob.
But that's fine because we all can come to their own. As long as we don't label them. People could be like, my headcanon is that this blob is this person.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't want to get into who's which blob, but I just don't think that issue of the blobs is bad.
So this comes on to the next issue. Where does the mascot live? Like, if we have to establish law.
Oh, so if we're creating kind of a semi-fictionalised account of who we are and where we live in a semi-detached in Nottingham, and it's just in our aquarium.
It's not our law, specifically the mascot.
Right, sorry. I thought we had to connect to the mascot in some kind of fictional...
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I've got two ideas.
To someone.
Tell me which one you would rather. Mm-hmm. One, Avalon.
Avalon, the comedy corporation.
No,
oh, right.
Avalon, the fairy area where King Arthur went.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Fairy area.
Should have said the Kingdom of
Avalon. Well, I don't know, actually. I don't think King Arthur actually rules over.
No,
he's just a resident.
Yeah, fair.
He's just like a retirement home for just him.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the faraway tree. Faraway tree is a bit too Tory, actually. No, not the tree itself, actually.
The tree's environmental.
The tree itself is a commune.
Yeah.
That tree is a kibbutz.
Tree? Listen, this is our own law. Could be an Avalon.
But the faraway tree is an Avalon.
I mean, you're really resistant to that, but...
Something about it doesn't sit right. Something about it felt weird. The faraway tree is in Avalon. I don't want it.
Okay, just a faraway tree and the blob. What? Okay,
just one of the residents.
And the blob is the blob one entity with two heads. No, was that?
Well, to be fair to me, I designed it as a symbol.
Yeah,
and now you're telling me to flesh out that it's a whole organism with a life and a location.
We're giving someone a brief.
We're not asking them to design a point-and-click adventure game. They're just
going
to make a little...
Yeah, we are.
We just want an Illustrator
everyone
file.
On the Patreon voted. They said, we said, what do you want? Do you want us to do more interviews? And they said, no. We want a point-and-click.
We want a radical left sequel to Monkey Island. Where does it live? Oh, do you know about the Tunguska event?
No. Go on.
Oh, it's just this event where, like, in a mostly deserted area of East Russia, something's happened and all the trees are flattened in a massive area going outwards.
Yeah.
I think the blobfish should live in the middle of that. And it is canon that when people investigated it, it was at the epicenter and caused the Tunguska event. And it was the energy released when two blobfish fused. There is a difficulty of this being a real thing that exists in one place, because the two blobfish are distinguished by the amount of seismic pressure that is being placed on them. Mm-hmm. So how can they both exist on the same place and not look the same?
One is in the future and one's in the past.
What in the
and
past,
there's different pressures.
The air pressure is like that of halfway down the ocean.
It's the dialectic.
Yeah, the dialectic's going to make the breathable air the same pressure as the abyssal zone.
Yeah. The contradictions, mate. So two opposing things can exist simultaneously.
Oh, that's good. Maybe the blobfish is the dialectic.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
That's tight.
Nailed it.
That's really, really sexy.
Mandy Blob.
Work on the name.
Corporations are rigidly hierarchical, totalitarian regimes that are, let me check, the cornerstone of liberal democracy. They gather people together who then work to make the people who own the corporation rich. A reasonable characterisation of a corporation then might be a giant 2-mile-tall tentacle entity. Half its tentacles suck in the blood out of its entangled employees. The other half of its tentacles drip-feeding said blood to customers in exchange for coins. But for some reason, that's not how they want us to think of them. In walks the mascot. Rich Uncle Pennybags is the face of Monopoly, a game originally created by American radical Lizzie McGee as an educational tool to illustrate the negative aspects of concentrating land in private monopolies. It was originally called the Landlord's Game, and you're supposed to hate it, which makes a lot of sense. Speaking of monopolies, Disney is represented by friendly old Mickey Mouse. From the 1930s, Coca-Cola latched onto Father Christmas, helping to associate their delicious fizzy tooth decay drink with time we spend with our families, time off work, a time of giving. Whoa, sneaky, sneaky.
Ho, 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 it's time for diabetes.
Along even more sinister lines, we have figures like Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is not a real person. Mars Incorporated, Mars Inc., food manufacturer and driver of illegal deforestation in the Ivory Coast and Ghana, uses Uncle Ben as the friendly face of just one branch of their £26 billion a year food business. Since 1946, Uncle Ben's products carried the image of an elderly African-American man dressed in a bow tie. Uncle, of course, is a common term from the segregated southern states of America to refer to older black male slaves or servants. Nice. But don't worry, in 2007, Mars promoted the fictional Uncle Ben to chairman of the board. There was even a website where you could take a tour of his fictional office. He still doesn't have a surname, and the real chairman of Mars Inc. is Victoria B. Mars, white woman and billionaire descendant of the original Mars. The businessman, not the god of war.
Girl power.
Mascots are just one way companies humanise themselves, present themselves as some benign, smiling face which masks their true nature. In the last decade, new disguises have become available to corporations, and unfortunate people are paid to spend their time and energy creating and sustaining these avatars. Brands have been scrambling to appeal to millennials and Gen Z who are more suspicious of old-school advertising. This has led to some brands on social media mirroring the writing style and tone of real people of that generation. As early as 2012, we see the Old Spice Twitter account posting,
Why is it that fire sauce isn't made with any real fire? Seems like false advertising.
to which the Taco Bell Twitter account replied,
Is your deodorant made with really old spices?
Don't worry guys, Old Spice had a retort.
Depends. Do you consider volcanoes, tanks and freedom to be spices?
This sinister mirroring of how real people talk online reached its zenith in 2009 with Sunny Delight's Twitter account proclaiming in its suicidally depressed tones,
I can't do this anymore.
during peak advertising moment, the Super Bowl. This inspired replies from other brands, including Little Debbie, the child mascot of a food manufacturer, which offered some self-care advice.
Speak with loved ones who will help break you from your negative self-talk.
Pornhub offered tissues. I, and many other people, maybe you, worried when I saw the Sunny D tweet that the unfortunate human being who was managing the account might actually need some help. Because these aren't bots. People write this. Some of the conversations between brands might be written by the same underpaid freelancer just switching accounts on their phone. There might even be a genuinely talented writer, but the work that they can get, the work that gets paid, the work that gets rewarded in our oh-so-efficient system isn't for their art, isn't for something they've created for themselves or for others. It's just humanising a corporation. And I can see how that might put you in a place where you would type,
I can't do this anymore.
In hindsight, grimly, it seems it was just a publicity stunt. Millennial burnout, depression and anxiety are very real, widespread problems. And Sunny D put out a tweet that reflects that real problem, hoping for some sweet, sugary engagement. The tweet's still up and is immediately followed by a load of retweeted quote tweets, having a right laugh. There's loads of them, but just one example would be Max Lederman's tweet, wife, where should we go for dinner? Me, I can't do this anymore. Seems like Sunny D weren't even truly relating with depression or anxiety. They were just monetising a mental health crisis. Oh, brands.
When I think back to the historical foundations of leftism, Marx and some ETC around that, it's people saying, I've looked at the blueprints of what capitalism is, and I just think it's just not going to pan out. I think this is like...
kick the tyres.
Yeah, this, as a system, I don't think it's a very good system.
Not getting on this on the snake pass.
And we should move on to another one.
Yeah.
And yet, all the discourse that I'm familiar with and have grown up in is like wall-to-wall moralism.
Yeah.
And so, all I've known is like, there's a real moral reason not to do this because it has bad human outcomes for people.
Yeah.
But then you look at where it came from and there's no real moralism in there. It's like, I've looked over all the blueprints and I think actually this isn't going to work, so we should change to this other model that I think would be preferable. It's like really hard down the line, dry, analytical thought.
You've got it. You've swazooed it, lad.
Yeah.
So stage one of leftism, the moral bit.
Yeah.
This is bad. You know, Robert Owen. Oh, look at these poor workers. It's bad. I'm going to make the factory nicer. Yeah. You start with the moral. Double combination of theorists going, this is morally bad, and then people living it going, this is just bad.
Yeah.
My life is bad. Can it not be bad, please? Can I spend a token for it to not be bad?
Spare or not bad for the old beggar woman.
And Marx and Engels went big on materialism and were just like, no. Irrelevant. The moral stuff, irrelevant. Yeah. We can use historical materialism to be like, look, this thing is just fucking doomed. This is how it behaves. These are all the things it does that are self-evidently bad. You know, we're not saying this is morally bad at any point. We're just saying this is fucking, look at surplus value. Look how this works. Unfortunately, they can at times come across as a bit stem bro because they're going, these were the idealists and we're the materialists.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that can be seen as a strength of the way the arguments work, that, you know, whether you're an absolute arsehole or not, you could be like, oh dear, to ensure that I'm going to be in a good position in 50 years after capitalism has eaten its own tail, I'd better start making some changes to the fundamental economic system of how we run this country. Somehow after that, and I guess you can fill in some of the gaps here, it snapped straight back to like moralism, which is all I seem to...
It didn't sort of snap back. I'm not some like historian of leftist thought or anything, but like from my little bits and bobs I know. Yeah. But basically the gist of it I have is that you have Engels' socialism, utopian and scientific. Yeah. Utopian is the old one of like, we're trying to create utopia for all these moral reasons. And then their version, which is just science. This is where, you know, like the meme of Marxism being like the immortal science. So it's that. And then you get stuff later on, like Trotsky writes some piece that's like, their morals and ours. And he's like, oh, you know, people have tried to make moral justifications for socialism. And he starts talking about, he's like, oh, people have tried to use Kant. And people did try and use like Kant to justify socialism. And then he goes, but all that's fucking bullshit, because socialism is a science and it's the only path to the future. So anything we do, even if it's the fucking gulag, is good actually, because it's science.
Oh, okay.
I
guess that might answer my next question, which is, why did that tradition die off?
Yeah, you pretty much have
I guess
haven't you?
Because you need to go past the modernist era, in order to go, oh, we won't do gulags next time.
And
we've completely abandoned that. Where I was going with thinking that is that, you know, the advantage of going, this is a scientific theory and I'm not basing anything on ideals, is because there's a big part of me that thinks that I don't know whether or not it's a good idea or whether it's like a valuable plan of attack, but I really think there's like a case to be made for socialism that can appeal to absolute sociopathic arseholes. Do you know what I mean? Like the arseholes case of socialism. Because it ends up making all aspects of society nicer.
Yeah.
Even if you are the bastard lord who lives up on the hill, your life would still be improved by living under a world where, oh, you can't go down there because that's like a slum area and it's not safe.
Yeah.
The fact that your world contains that makes it worse, not just for the people who have to live in those conditions, but for the people who like go, oh, I better not go in this dodgy area.
Or even not violence, just like healthcare. Or if we provide healthcare for everyone, then a horrible disease isn't going to spread everywhere.
Yeah, and it like lowers crime, and all these things have these outcomes that affect the whole feel and look of society. And if you're one of those, like I always think of like Rory Stewart, who's got this really romantic idea of like, Britain, I will walk around Britain and speak to its people. And it shows that like he's obviously a bit, you know, somewhere between just being mad and some sort of far from the madding crowd style romanticist of wanting to walk through all these pastoral fields and speak to the simple shepherds of their lambing season. But obviously he wanders around and like, you know, there's just areas of the UK that have just been rendered unpleasant.
Yeah.
But if you want to like believe in if you want to have this real Tory idea of the majesty of Britain and that you can wander around it and speak
also,
to its fine
the
people.
right to roam is like real fucking bad in this country.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, I guess most of the benefits come when you're not mega rich. Of just being like, you know, I grew up in a city and there's just loads of antisocial behaviour and there's loads of crime and there's loads of services that don't work. So obviously I don't need convincing, but I think if you are the lord of the manor who's on the hill and you are not doing anything about climate change, you're not doing anything about the coronavirus you're making under austerity, all those things end up hurting you. You can't fully insulate yourself against a global pandemic just because you're rich.
They'll fucking try.
They will try, but I just feel like surely
the stuff's more important, Sean. Because the inequality and the stuff is more important than the stuff you're talking about to them. That's it. That's class interest.
Yeah, I guess maybe ultimately wouldn't work, but I just think there's so many elements of socialism that can appeal to an absolute psychopath.
Yeah.
But they would never hear about it because they can't get past the moralizing. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a good idea that the moral arguments are a bad way to go. It's just something I've been thinking about.
When people think they're being moralized to, they have that reaction people have to vegans where they're like, oh, are you saying I'm bad? Then I'm going to double down on being bad then? Yeah.
So I guess that, but at least it's like it's not exactly saying socialism is the immortal science, nor is it saying you must be heartless if you're not on our cause already.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think what tangible benefits you would get from socialism if you are a semi-insulated, well-off person.
Lower gentry. The guy you put into picture to me makes me feel like lower gentry.
Well, no, if you're Rory Stewart, if you're precisely Rory Stewart.
Yeah, there's loads of benefits to it.
Yeah, go on.
Less war.
No, you want war. I feel if you're a Tory, you want
true.
war.
Hold on.
I guess I just come back to this feeling of it just being genuinely pleasant. There's less chance of an epidemic.
Try and convince me. Maybe if I become the gentry guy.
Yeah.
Hello
there. I'm going door to door and I'm selling the concept of socialism.
Oh, yes, not for me. Not for me. Hounds!
Listen, if you could just put the dogs away, just give me a moment of your time. Have you ever thought about how nice it would be if you could just pay to make the world more pleasant for you?
With my money?
Do you know how all the people who live down in the village hate you, right? I've heard they're saying bad words about you.
Talk of me being a vampire.
Yeah.
I've none of it.
It must be really annoying, right?
I'm not a vampire.
The peasants down there giving it all that, right? When you're doing your best for the community.
I got this house, I gained it from defeating a vampire.
Yeah, and why not, right? And why shouldn't you put a stake through the heart of the Dark Lord?
Now it's mine.
What if I told you
I worked my way up.
there's a product I'm selling, and you could, if you were to buy it, it would mean all the people down there not only would stop cursing your name at night,
Yes.
but they'd be better dressed, they'd smell less bad,
Okay.
and they wouldn't have a chance of stabbing you or your escorts when you're walking through the town.
You would remove the pitchforks and they wouldn't scrape my jag.
It's even better than that. I would remove the desire for them to stab you.
Well,
Safer still than them being unarmed. They'd be armed but have no volition.
they say they've got the pitchfork, but no danger.
Yeah, what you'd be paying for is to remove their hatred for you by degree.
And how much is it?
Again, it's a sliding scale, so the more you pay, the less they hate you.
Okay, so how much is the least I could pay?
Well, we need to get all the lords to agree to pay this at once. It's kind of like a hedge fund. We need to get a lot of people investing in it to make sure it works. But if it comes off, you'd need to pay 20% of all your income at the very least.
What?
But I mean, that's a luxury product. You'd be showing.
Get out!
And then I'd be dogged.
Yeah.
Yeah, fully ripped. Yeah, you're right.
You're right, but you're both correct that even the capitalist class would be living in a better world if capitalism was overthrown, and they would have better lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, money isn't happiness, and there's loads of people who are absolutely loaded and they're depressed as fuck. And
you get this massive diminishing returns, and there's nothing beyond your first million that actually goes towards making your life any better.
Yeah. The other issue of being able to persuade them that that's the case is another problem.
Selling it like it's a product is interesting. Like it's a Dragon's Den pitch. Hey, if I can get you, Dragons, and also everyone else in your earning bracket to invest just a certain amount of billions,
I love
then it's a product that will make everyone on Earth happier.
I love socialism as like competing with capitalism. So capitalism has to worry about what socialism's doing in order to keep itself competitive in the marketplace. So this is, when you really start thinking about it and you go hold on, would there be an NHS if the Soviet Union didn't exist? Not saying that everything about the Soviet Union's fine, but do you reckon the NHS would have come into existence?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but then if you start...
Absolutely never, ever, ever.
But then you start digging into it and you go the kind of received wisdom of A to B marches, let's do a peaceful march. And then go, well, when were marches successful? When was peaceful march successful? The classic one people point to is they go the civil rights movement in the 1960s is one of the few you can actually point at. And you go, oh, right, but what circumstances brought the success of that about? Could it potentially be that the Soviet Union was absolutely ripping into the USA for having Jim Crow and fighting a propaganda war based on it in, the increasingly independent states of Africa and on US soil itself? In the early 20th century, the trade unions that accepted black Americans were the communist ones.
Yeah.
Asa Randolph, who organized the first march on Washington in the 40s, which didn't actually happen, but then he was part of organizing the 60s one, the I Have a Dream one. It's a communist for most of his fucking life. And it's
let's not forget space travel as well.
Well, yeah.
That's my absolute favourite one, because space travel was such a cultural romantic touchstone in the entire West. The idea of being an astronaut. But space travel...
Cosmonaut.
Yeah, sure, right? I don't think they dreamed necessarily of being a cosmonaut. Yeah, when I'm older, I want to cross through the Berlin Wall, introduce myself at the Kremlin, and be shot up into space to die like one of those dogs. But the idea that that was such a romantic dream, and it never would have happened without communism, right? And it influenced a generation of Americans who were entranced by the stars. And then later, because it had been I feel space travel then went hand in hand with nuclear threat and sci-fi. They got entranced by the stars. Then the Soviet Union started to fall, and then all they were worried about was that the stars were full of aliens, and then they were going to come down and kill them, and probe them.
The Soviets won the fucking space race. First dog in space, first man in space, first woman in space, first satellite around the moon.
But just
it's just the one thing of like, they got a man on the moon.
The guy stood there.
So that one, that's the metric. What about all the others? No, ignore. Ignore. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And the big holes. And just, they had a competition to dig the biggest hole, the deepest hole into the center of the earth.
And who dug the deepest hole?
The good guys.
What?
I'm joking. But the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They dug, and again, it's just, the beauty of it is it's like, why are you doing, like, who's this profit? I mean, maybe there's loads of industries probably making shitloads of money off it, but it's just a pure thing of like, what's down there? Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to get it.
I'm going down there. No, we're going down there first. Yeah. How deep are you going? And they dug, like, the Soviets dug a fucking hole deeper than that trench at the bottom of the Pacific. The deepest Marianas Trench. That thing Mad James Cameron went down.
Oh, are we talking about digging holes on Earth?
Yeah. And it's so, but now it's just derelict. So after the Soviet Union fell, the whole thing's derelict and it's collapsed, and there's probably, it's like feral dogs. Well, I don't know about, it's like pushing the Arctic.
Going in.
Yeah. But like, I think I'm thinking of Chernobyl, but there's like a cap. It's just a fucking rusty, like 1 foot piece of like iron.
Yeah.
And I think it just says in Russian on it, like, do not open 14,000 kilometer hole.
That hole is deepest possible hole.
It's the deepest hole on Earth.
And it's just, and what, a pedestrian could just unscrew
you can't even unscrew it because it's rusted to fuck.
Right. But with a crowbar and a bit of time, you could unearth the hole.
Yeah. People, I think, like, visit it and, go like, oh, the fucking hole. But I think, like, Deepwater Horizon, which was like, I don't know, that was like 12,000 kilometers, meters deep. It's got to be kilometers, it's got to be meters deep. Yeah. That wasn't as deep as this hole. It's huge. I mean, it's still not that far into the earth. I don't think they even really get through the crust that much. But they did that. But we did that. It's like, can't let the Americans dig a bigger fucking hole than us.
So the Americans started it, and this was an example.
So it was a space race to go out, and there was a whole race to go in. Not as dramatic, but I'm in. Competition, the market, baby. The most powerful market force is a state that calls itself socialist.
Yeah.
And has certain socialist elements compared to the other one, and a whole bunch of other fucking problems.
But that's what makes me think, like, when we're talking about the capitalist class, or at least when we're trying to think structurally of going, it's not about individuals, it's about this larger structure.
Yeah.
It is kind of like there's just this thing called capitalism, and it's in charge. And then, because as we're saying, like, under socialism, a lot of the capitalists, their life would be better. And, austerity is going to ensure that if the coronavirus paranoia, if that ever were to turn out to be 100% as real as the scaremongers would want you to think, it would rip through our society. Like, if you're looking at hospital beds per 1,000 people,
we
are lower than America on that. Just over 3 hospital beds per 1,000 people.
Oh, it's because they pay off all the hospitals.
Yeah, of course.
There was one built in Birmingham where the company that built it cut a corner to make a little bit more profit, and the corridors were just narrow enough to not be able to turn a hospital bed around in.
That's incredible.
Just to make a little bit more money.
Well, I'm glad they made a little bit more money. Hopefully that went towards a good cause. Xbox Live subscription. But it's more that there's an idea that is sort of controlling them. Like, when you talk about brainworms, it's like they're not even working in their best. Like, they've inherited this kind of Ayn Rand selfishness as the path to prosperity, but they're not ultimately even behaving in their own self-interest. Like,
no, because they're completely alienated from it as well. And they have to, they're trapped, like, if you're a big boss, big business boss. If you're Bowser at the fucking top of the castle, where are you getting your fucking shells from? Some other prick comes along and starts, recruiting a Gumba army. Then if he's more efficient at it than you, kidnapping princesses, you're fucking gone. You're out of business. Yeah. So you're alienated from your fucking humanity as well. Yeah, you're happy a cog. You're made of fucking platinum or whatever, lubed more often, but you're still a cog.
Yeah.
But it's hard to persuade someone of that.
And it's like if capitalism believes that competition drives excellence.
Yeah.
Great. So let's have something to compete with capitalism then, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
capitalism was actually better when communism at least existed, right? Communism communism doesn't make life better to people living in the communist country. It makes people living in the capitalist country's lives better.
And even like a system of communism that the vast majority of people would agree is like deeply flawed.
Yeah. Even bad communism improves capitalism. There is not a branch of communism so rotten that it will not make capitalism better.
Oh my God.
Because you've got these other countries going like, oh, we've got to set up a national health service. We don't want to make the Russians make us look bad. Oh, let's invest on space travel. Let's send someone to the moon for no reason. There's no profit to be made here.
We've got to build shitloads of social housing because we don't want people becoming communists.
Yeah, we don't want them going over to Russia and travelling over and letting Stalin show them around and they write a tracticus on how it's amazing. We can't have more people doing that. So we'll just set up a nicer state over there. And
guys, what happened as the Soviet Union collapsed and then what completely entrenched itself in the 1990s after it was gone? Everything getting much worse.
Because there's no need to justify capitalism in terms of anything it could do for people. We're the only game in town, baby, and we're not run very well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the argument for communism doesn't need to be, oh, we need to do communism so that there's a country where people can have a good quality of life or whatever. Just to exist as a counterpoint to capitalism changes the globe.
You know, the thing of communism's never actually worked and we just need to, we'll have the good one. But then that gets like reflected back, which is kind of true, but gets reflected back at you by like right wingers of like, oh, of course that wasn't real communism, was it? Yeah. Like whatever example you do, and you go like, I feel like, yeah, okay, a fucking gulag death cult communism, which is fucking shit, forced you to just up your game so much, and that was fucked.
Yeah. When we think of like the glory days of the social contract, the New Deal, post-war consensus, that wouldn't have happened unless there was Russia.
Yeah. Of course. Everyone say thank you, Lenin.
Yeah. So whenever it talks back to the glory days of capitalism, the glory days of capitalism wouldn't have existed without communism. Shit.
I mean, at the start of this, we made a joke about Trotsky's argument being like, well, actually, scientifically, it's just going to make everything better, being quite bad. But now I'm like,
oh, fuck.
Oh, I've been wrecked.
Yeah, got absolutely owned by the biggest trot in town.
Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Evans. Our title theme was created by Ella Jean with additional music by Jack Evans. If you enjoy Mandatory Redistribution Party, please leave us a review on iTunes to increase our reach and follow us on Twitter @MandoParty. Thanks for listening. Bye.